How you doing? My name is Pablo and today we talk about the new release from ARMAF and it's one of the biggest. We all know Club de Nuit Intense, a fragrance that is almost inspired by Creed Aventus. And we know it's a fragrance that is a bang for your buck. It's cheap and it's also like one of the biggest fragrances that you can ever buy. But Creed Aventus isn't one of the only best-seller fragrances. We also have Dior Sauvage and one of those flankers is gonna be Dior Sauvage Elixir. Well, what happened if we join this trinity of power that is Aventus, Dior Sauvage and Dior Sauvage Elixir and make it into one? The result is gonna be Club de Nuit Urban Man Elixir. So what about if we start with the review? The bottle is gonna be the same bottle that all of the Club de Nuit Intense have, the same silhouette. We have this cap that is one of the most iconic caps that you can find. And in this time you have the same two crystals on all of the faces of the cap. The bottle, straightforward, is gonna be the same bottle. You have the Club de Nuit engraved in this side and the other side you have pretty much nothing. On the bottom you have the batch code, but what we're most interested of is gonna be the front of the bottle. You have the tag with the crystal, of course you always have it with the ARMAF, the name of the house, but it says Club de Nuit Urban Man Elixir. Let's spray this sucker out. Club de Nuit ARMAF, grab the Aventus, right? Grab the Aventus and make it even better than it already is. Making it last longer, making it even smell a little bit better. But the main problem with Club de Nuit is the beginning of the fragrance. It smells like really synthetic. In the top notes of the fragrance, you have one of the biggest thing that is almost on all fragrance and it's gonna be bergamot. Bergamot, what it does, it makes the fragrance fruitier and also sweet. Normally you expect the bergamot to do the fragrance fruity and sour, almost like that type of fragrance. ARMAF make the bergamot almost that it almost reminds you like it's pineapple. We already have seen this before in Mont Blanc Explorer, which is a fragrance that is inspired of Creed Aventus, but even cheaper. You can expect a sweet bergamot this time. In the other hand, we have pink pepper as well as some jasmine. These two notes, the main reason that are in here is the fact that they make the fragrance even cleaner. Pink pepper, what it does, it gives you this spicy type of pepper that it already have, and as well make the fragrance a little bit sweeter and also a little bit cleaner. And jasmine is gonna make the fragrance powdery and as well this kind of flowery type of it. So if you're not a big fan of jasmine, probably this is not gonna be your fragrance. But that is not all. It's a fragrance that it is inspired on Dior Sauvage. And in Dior Sauvage, we know we have almost a lot of things. One of them is gonna be patchouli, lavender, elemi, as well as amber sand. Well, you have pretty much all that in the same fragrance right here. You have amber sand. What amber sand does is gonna make the fragrance a little bit sweeter and synthetic at the same time. But the main reason they add amber sand is the fact that it makes the fragrance last even longer and projects a lot harder. With the patchouli, you can expect that the fragrance is gonna be synthetic, right? When we speak about patchouli, you can think that patchouli is gonna make the fragrance like almost like an old type of barber. Well, in this case, it isn't. What it does is almost remind you like the original type of Dior Sauvage patchouli that is right in between, right? So it's not like a fully synthetic fragrance, but it's not like a fully natural fragrance, making the fragrance sexier. Elemi is gonna give you the same type of resin vibe to the fragrance that almost all Dior Sauvage have. And the main note right here, lavender. Lavender, we all know that is something that is like in almost all fragrances and blue ones. But in this case, Dior Sauvage Elixir is a fragrance that the lavender is the main note, right? It's a fragrance that the lavender is almost purely natural. It can almost remind you like an old fragrance, right? Like old type of fragrance, but not on the all the way, right? It's a fragrance that you smell it and you're like, smells really good. And as well some woody notes and saffron that are gonna be under the table. You're not gonna really smell it like until the fragrance dry. One of the biggest problems that Aventus Dior Sauvage have is that it's gonna create you fatigue on the nose. Smelling fatigue. What does this mean? This means that it's a fragrance that at certain point of the use of the fragrance you are not gonna really smell it. But don't be alarmed. The other persons, the other people that are with you, they still smell the fragrance. The problem is that since you're wearing it, your nose said, you know what, I don't want to smell this anymore, so you stop smelling it. But the other people, they don't stop smelling it. So that's one of the biggest things that you have to have in mind if you're planning to get this fragrance. One cool factor about this fragrance is that it has a lot of surprise, because it's not only a fragrance that you smell it and you're like pretty much done with the fragrance. What you smell at the beginning is all the things that you're gonna smell. In this case, it isn't. It's a fragrance that when you first smell it, it almost reminds you a lot of Cuida Ventus. When certain amount of time passes, it's almost like Dior Sauvage. But when it fully dries out, it's gonna smell a lot like Dior Sauvage Elixir. So you have to have this in mind. It have a lot of factor surprise on it. Now we should pass to the big side of the fragrance, the performance. The performance on this fragrance is pretty goddamn good. It's incredible. It's gonna last you around 12 hours on skin, and I can assure you that because I tested it out myself. But here's the problem, or kind of the problem, right? Don't expect that the 12 hours that you're gonna be using the fragrance, it's gonna project the same. No, this doesn't happen. It's a fragrance that between 5 and 6 hours of use, the fragrance is gonna be projecting quite nicely, right? It's a fragrance that almost everyone in the room can smell you. And between the 2 and the 3rd hour of the use of the fragrance, it's gonna be a beast mode. So you have to have that in mind. But one of the biggest factors of all time, compliments. We all know two things, one thing, two things, right? Is that Cuida Ventus DNA is gonna give you compliments. It's a fragrance that the chicks love, everyone love, as well as Dior Sauvage. Dior Sauvage gained itself to be one of the biggest fragrances of all times. Well, in this case, Urban Elixir, it's gonna make the same thing. It's a fragrance that if you're looking for compliments, it's gonna get it. It's one of the biggest, cheapest fragrances that got me a lot of compliments. I'll be honest to you, I don't use a lot of cheap colognes, but in this case, the fragrance, actually, for being that cheap, it's a fragrance that got me a lot of compliments, even more than the high-end fragrances. And we have one more point to point out, and it's gonna be the use of the fragrance. Where can I use it? Where should I use it? Well, the age range of the fragrance, it really doesn't have any, right? It's a fragrance that the 15 years old boy can use it to a 60 years old man can use it. It's a fragrance that it's for everyone. But you have to keep in mind that it's a fragrance that have a lot of lavender, and this can make you think that it's a fragrance for an old man, but it isn't. So now, where should I use it, right? So the temperature of the place that I can use it is gonna be all around the year. You can use it in cold, you can use it in heat. It's a fragrance that it's gonna be pretty much defending itself like all the time you use it. And then we have this situation. This is gonna be pretty obvious, right? You can use it like your daily beater or like your fragrance night out club making love fragrance, right? It's gonna be pretty much working for all, except going to the gym, working out. It's a fragrance that pretty much you don't wanna be using fragrances when you work out. And in this case, you really don't want to use this fragrance when you work out. Well, if you have the original Urban Man from ARMAF, it's a fragrance that it is inspired from Mystery Burberry, from Burberry. That is a fragrance that is going to be pretty regular of a fragrance. You can use it as your daily beater and still get compliments out of it. But I'll be honest, I do not recommend the Urban Man. In the other hand, we have Cuida Ventus. So if you have Cuida Ventus, I would recommend buying this fragrance because it's not 100% exactly the same. It's a fragrance that it smells like a Ventus for almost 15 minutes. But here comes the big question, right? If you own Dior Sauvage Elixir, I wouldn't recommend the fragrance because you already have the big boy, you already have the OG, so there is no need to buy the cheap one. Or if not, if you want the same Elixir at a lower price, lower quality for your daily use. So if you really love Elixir, it's a fragrance that I will recommend you to buying this one. So that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed. My name is Jose Pablo. Please follow me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and my other YouTube channel that is in Spanish. You will really help me a lot. So, smell you later.